AEW All Out is in the books. This was a very long show, and it shouldn't have been. This show went almost 5 hours, and I understand why Tony did that, because he wanted to go at least head-to-head with the first hour of WrestlePalooza. To me, it was just a little bit too much. It was overkill. Clearly, this show should have went off the air at least by 6:15 or 6:30, if we're being honest, but it is what it is. There's nothing we can do about it. Whatever. What's done is done. So we're going to go ahead and get into AEW All In from September the 20th, 2025, live from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. So we kick the show off with the first match of the afternoon, and it was Edge and Christian, or CNC, defeating FTR. So this match was long. For the video package, they showed us what happened earlier on in the day. They met a guy named Bubbles and Wendell Clark, a hockey player. Bubbles from the Trailer Park Boys is awesome. I love the Trailer Park Boys. They kick major ass. So Edge and Christian got a really good reaction. The crowd chanted "Fuck the Revival," which is what FTR stands for. Not really though, but that's what the crowd chanted though, because they were in Canada. So the match was fine. It was slow basically. So the crowd asked Christian if they would be his. The crowd asked Christian if he'll be their father, and he said yes, he will. They pops with that. There was the Shatter Machine in this, a bunch of suplexes, Lupus presses, and everything. They worked on the neck of Edge most of the match, that being FTR. So basically, Edge gets the win for his team, for CNC, via a spear. He hit Cash for the 1, 2, 3 with the spear. Post-match, Beth Phoenix shows up, gets a massive reaction to stand alongside with Edge. Nick Wayne and his mom, they show up. They beat down Beth Phoenix for a brief moment. FTR shows up along with Kip Sabian. They have the handcuffs. They handcuff Edge. And then they hit a spike pile driver on Christian. And Beth's trying to take the handcuffs off of Edge. Then she fights back for a brief second. And then FTR hits a spike pile driver on Beth. And this was great. So really good stuff there. I enjoyed this. Again, the match was slow because why? Both teams are veterans. But, this was fine. I did like it. It was good. Right decision was made, obviously. I thought this was going to be the main event, but it was not. And I see why. Because you always want to send the crowd home happy, if you can. So I can see why. If that would have main evented the show, the crowd would have been pissed as fuck. So I can see why it didn't happen. Moving on, let's lead us into Eddie Kingston. He's been gone for a year and a half. Well, 16 months, almost a year and a half. He defeated W. Morrissey, a.k.a. Big Bill. I think he made his return on Collision or whatever. So, there is that. Match was short. It was about maybe, 5 minutes. He wins via the spinning back fist or the Hurricane. And post-match, Brian Keefe came in the ring to attack Eddie's, but Hook comes out to make the save, and then they clear the house. Hook locks in Red Rum on Brian Keefe, and then Hook pushes him into Eddie Kingston, and then he hit a Hadouken spinning back spinning backfist to take out Brian Keith. This is fine, but this shouldn't have even been on the show at all. This was one of many matches that should have just taken place on Dynamite or Collision, if we're being honest. There was at least 3 or 4 matches on this show that didn't need to make it, and this was one of them. Moving on, this leads us into Tables and Tacks. Mark Briscoe defeats MJF. It was basically blood in this, a whole bunch of blood, a whole bunch of thumbtacks. Mark ended up hitting a couple of froggy bows. MJF ended up scraping Mark Briscoe's face into the thumbtacks, which was nasty. So basically, Mark Briscoe hits the froggy bow and through a table. Then he sets MJF up for a J Driller 1, 2, 3. So good stuff there. Makes perfect sense. What happens with MJF going forward, I have no idea. And nobody knows what's next for Mark Briscoe. But this feud is essentially over with. There's nothing else they can do, even though they're one apiece. It doesn't really matter. Like, after you've done a match that brutal, what's next? It's almost like with Hangman and Swerve when they did their match with the Texas Death Match that they did. They did that too early in their feud. They should have really done a regular match first, and, you know, your third and final match, in my opinion, should always have a stipulation to it to end the feud, to make sure that this is over with and both characters have to move on. And I don't know what's next for MJF or Mark Briscoe. I just don't know. Moving on, this leads us into a backstage segment. So the former Acclaim, they're giving out to each other as Jerry Lynn tries to get them to recognize they're better together. He threatens to have them suspended without pay, and that only gets them more riled up. Who cares about this? This shit should have taken place on Collision. Moving on, this leads us into the Demand, a.k.a. the Gates of Agony and Ricochet. They defeat the Hurt Syndicate, MVP, Bobby Lashley, and Shelton Benjamin. Match was actually okay. MVP needs to hang up the boots. He was very, very slow in this. He's had way too many knee surgeries and stuff. He took the pin, so Ricochet ended up winning via the Spirit Gun for the 1, 2, 3. Match was pretty good, though. I did like the match. I'm a fan of the Hurt Syndicate. Both Bishop Khan and Tola Leon, they've got promise. They really do. Both big jack dudes. They've got promise. So this was fine. You know, really good stuff here. It sucks the MVP lost, but it does make sense. I guess they're trying to push Ricochet's faction. Makes sense. Although I kind of wish that the Hurt Syndicate would have added another member into the mix. But I don't know who that could be. I really don't know who that could be. Because I just don't want to see MVP wrestle at this point in time. I really don't. At this stage of his career, he just needs to be a manager, and that's it. That's it. That's what he needs to do. He doesn't need to wrestle at all, and this proves it. Hopefully he's okay. Because it seemed like he did tweak his knee in the match. So hopefully he is okay. Moving on, this leads us into another match that should have taken place on Dynamite or Collision. That being Mercedes Moné defeating Riho. She retains the TBS Championship. So the match was okay. It was a bunch of German suplexes. Riho spammed the double foot stomp all throughout this match. She did it, I think, at least 5 to 6 times in this match. So she got Mercedes into a single leg crab. Mercedes ended up hitting a dragon suplex. No, Riho ended up hitting a dragon suplex on to Mercedes. And then the finish came when Mercedes hit the Monet Maker. And before that, she hit a lung blower for the, that's how she got the win. So good stuff there. So I do like that. Mercedes using the lung blower is pretty cool. I do like that. So great stuff there. Mercedes getting the win. It makes sense. But I just don't give a shit about this. I don't. This is a match that could have taken place on Collision or Dynamite, if we're being honest. So this was the second match that could have taken place on Dynamite or Collision. Moving on. Triple threats. Kazuchika Okada, Tenosuke Takeshita, and Mascara Dorada. Okada retains the AEW Unified Championship by defeating Mascara Dorada. If you've seen one triple threat match, you've seen them all. Match was pretty good. Takeshita hit a nasty knee strike on both Okada and Dorada. And then Okada got the win via the Rainmaker onto Dorada for the 1-2-3. Takeshita was going to go for the Raging Fire. Okada breaks up the pin. So, and then a drop kick took out Takeshita. He just couldn't get it from a drop kick, which is weird to me, but it is what it is. Clearly, they're setting up Okada versus Takeshita. It's going to be the young boy versus... it's basically going to be the young boy stuff. They're going to do the young boy type thing that they always do in New Japan, basically. So there is that. That's fine there. Hopefully we get that at Wrestle Dream. I think that would be great to see Takeshita and Okada go at it. I think that'd be a perfect spot. And I really do think that Takeshita needs to be on his own. He needs to be a babyface. He just needs a mouthpiece, and it doesn't need to be Don Callis. I don't know who it could be on that roster, but needs somebody who can actually speak. And Takeshita, to me, would just be better on his own. Okada, he's there. He's just moving in slow motion, basically. He don't give a damn. Moving on. This leads us into Jon Moxley defeating Darby Allin in the coffin match. There was a bunch of blood in this match, basically. It was a massive brawl, basically. So, Darby ended up getting his fingers smashed. So Moxley stumped the fingers onto the casket. Then Darby ended up bringing in a steel pipe. Him and Moxley fought over it for a brief moment. The Death Riders, they showed up. And they beat up Darby. And then Darby fought Moxley some more. He ended up going out to the commentary desk, and he opened up a duffel bag, and it revealed a large plastic bag. Bryan Danielson told Darby to do it. He ended up putting the bag over Moxley, chucking him out, thinking that was going to lead to the finish. And then Pac, who's been gone for months, he shows up and he beats the shit out of Darby. He ends up doing a razor's edge through one of the other coffins. Then Then Pac picked up Darby, put him in a body bag, zipped it up, and then he threw Darby into the casket, and then Moxley just kicks the lid, and that was the match. So, this is fine, I guess. I figured they were going to do this anyway. Who gives a damn? Bryan Danielson is horrible on commentary. He just is. But Moxley winning, I guess, makes the most sense. So, it is what it is. So there is that. I'm guessing the Jon Moxley Darby Allin feud is over with now. Well, not really, because what happened later on in the show kind of tells you it's not. It's far from being over. Moving on, we got a backstage segment involving the conglomeration. So Mark Briscoe basically just calls out 3 of Don Callis' men to fight him at Dynamite on Wednesday. So it's going to be Mark Briscoe and Hologram. And then Mark Briscoe asked Kyle O'Reilly to see if the last man's ready to come back. And his response was whatever. So, that's going to be Orange Cassidy. So, there is that. All right. Moving on. This leads us into the Fatal 4-Way match. Jamie Hayter, Chris Statlander, Tekla, and Toni Storm for the AEW Women's World Championship. Chris Statlander wins the title via the seatbelt. The seatbelt that Willa Yuta uses to win his matches. Yes, that's how she won the match. So just a complicated roll-up is how she won. That's fine there. It makes sense. Toni Storm was shocked as can be. Match was not long. It was about maybe 10 or 12 minutes. So it wasn't too bad there. Chris Statlander winning. It makes it was the right decision because there's not much Toni Storm can do. Toni Storm has been a good champion, but she's only good when she has a feud going. So maybe we could see where Chris Statlander does turn heel, maybe. And you have a feud between Chris Statlander and Toni Storm. I think that would be great. So Chris Statlander winning makes perfect sense. I do like it. Although I wish that it was somebody else in the match that would have taken the pin, maybe Tekla or Jamie Hayter. I think that would have been better if you ask me. But it's fine. It makes sense. Moving on, this leads us into another Fatal 4-Way match. This time it's a tag team match for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. The Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson, Brodito, Brody King and Bandito, Jet Speed, Mike Bailey, and Kevin Knight, and Hechicero and Josh Alexander. Brodito, they retained, basically. Who cares? If you've seen one ladder match, you've seen them all. Just a bunch of spots and shit. Just crazy spots. Who cares about this shit? Moving on from this. So, basically, the Young Bucks, they're in the ring alone. Jack Perry shows up. So he attacks the Young Bucks and Rocky Romero. They set up for a BTE trigger. Then the lights go out. Luchasaurus comes out. He attacks and beats up the Young Bucks. And then him and Jungle Boy, they hug it out and everything else. Who cares about this shit? They embrace. I don't care about this shit at all. Why would you reunite Jurassic Express? It makes no sense. Tony Khan is going fucking backwards with this shit. Who cares? Moving on. So we go backstage. Jon Moxley, he's sitting near the casket containing Darby Allin. So Moxley tells the other Death Riders to bounce out, and they do. Darby pops up out of the coffin. He attacks Moxley, puts him in a body bag, and he sprays some flammable liquid with a bag, and he lights it ablaze. And Moxley's on fire for like maybe 5 to 10 seconds. And then staff, they're able to calm the flames. This was awesome. There's pretty good shit there. So good stuff. I do like that. Darby Allin is sick as fuck. Always has been, always will be. So that's fine. And what I mean by that is he's just a weird individual. A very far out individual, if you know what I mean. And I'm not talking about that to be cool. I'm talking about that in a kind of psycho type of individual, that Darby. Darby is kind of weird right there. But that was cool. Well, it wasn't really cool, but it was kind of grotesque. And then Ricochet's like, well, AEW's for families. It's like, no. AEW is not for families. AEW is just, it's sick and sadistic. It really is. AEW really is just the indies with a big budget. That's all AEW is. I mean, you got blood, you got thumbtacks, you got people setting people on fire, putting them in body bags. It's just nah, bro. It's total indie. It's total indie. Main event of the evening: Hangman Adam Page defeats Kyle Fletcher to retain the AEW World Championship. This was a very long match. This went about 36 minutes. It was way too damn long for me. They traded chops in this match and everything. So they wrestled on the outside for a little bit. Kyle got the upper hand there. He put Hangman through a table. Both guys were able to get up to their feet. Hangman later on in the match returned the favor by doing a deadeye through the table when he was on the ring apron, taking out Kyle Fletcher there. Kyle Fletcher then, towards the end of the match, unhooked the turnbuckle pad. He was about to do a brainbuster. Hangman fought out of it. He ended up hitting a super deadeye off the top rope. And the match was not over. It still continued from there. And then Kyle Fletcher was about to do another move. And Hangman ended up hitting a buckshot lariat for the 1, 2, 3. And that was the show. So this was fine. Again, All Out should have been shorter, if we're being honest. There were several matches on the show that we didn't need. Eddie Kingston and Big Bill, Mercedes and Riho. And you could say the Fatal 4-Way. And you could say also the ladder match. So we really didn't need a whole bunch of matches on this show. It's just these matches were just way too long. And that's always been Tony's downfall, is he just fails to use time management. He just wants everybody to go out there and have a 25-minute match, and you don't need that. You really don't. This show should have easily been about 3 to 3.5 hours, and we still would have gotten the same results. But it is what it is. So All Out was okay in my book. It was okay. It was not worth $40. It just wasn't. I feel that AEW should have worked out a deal with Max to where if you just have a Max subscription and you want to watch an exclusive AEW pay-per-view, you have to pay at least $10 to $15. And I think, to me, that would be fair. That really would be a fair deal. But it is what it is. It doesn't matter at this point. Who gives a shit? But what did you guys think of All Out? Let me know. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace.